Now, Alexis, in your statement, you mentioned that you like to visualize art in person, and then be drawn to the story. So kind of a different approach than Susan. So how did this process for you choosing the works online affect to how you were drawn to the stories?
Well, I definitely did this from, very different than I would have approached doing a show in person. So I really didn't have the theme, which I would usually have, try to find a theme and all these other things. I decided to look at so many different elements of it, whether that was a visual, like how was I drawn to it visually, more of a personal effect, does it strike a memory for me? Is the art telling a story from what I could tell? And then I did even look at some of the statements as well, because I love when artists can write statements that didn't determine whether I chose it or not, but all this kind of holistically putting it together. And for me, taking away the theme, trying hard to mindfully understand, like, okay, I don't want to do a theme. I actually just kind of want to approach this from a very holistic standpoint. So it was very different for me, but I enjoy it. And I love what Susan mentioned, because work in the museum field and having the opportunity to whether curate a show or work with so many amazing curators and artists, I also had the opportunity when I first started in the museum to work as a guest services associate. And I was responsible for giving so many tours to a variety of different age groups. And while doing that, you really can tie in the elements. Okay, here's a curatorial standpoint, but how do people really take it all in, right? We really want to work for our community and the people who walk through our doors. So how can they interpret the art? How can they break down the museum walls, which museums been doing this for centuries, trying to break down this museum wall to make sure people can feel welcome walking through. And so by doing that, right, you do add in some art historical references, but there's times where you look at the art and I will ask someone, what colors do you see? What do you think about when you think of this? My favorite thing is picking out a color. What do you think about when you think of the color red? I get people saying death or love or passion. And I always tell the story because my favorite response was this 5-year-old kid who said it reminded me of the ketchup I had on my fries for lunch, right? So there's so many different interpretations. And for me, having the academic background, interpreting that, but also, of course, personal, but then also thinking about who is this serving? What are people seeing? Who is our audience? And just allowing people to understand that art is for everyone.